In the previous video, we described how to use Ansible to automate different tasks in Kasten in order to export multiple applications running in a Kubernetes cluster in Google Cloud Kubernetes Engine. The idea now is to import the same applications in a different cluster, in this case a cluster running in AWS, by using import policies from Kasten. Okay, all this process also is going to be automated by using Ansible playbooks. So in this case, if you see here, we have 4 nodes, in this case in AWS. If you see the namespaces, we can see this is a clean cluster. There is no any application. Kasten is not installed, nothing at all. Okay, so now we're going to install Kasten first by using an Ansible playbook. Then we're going to create the location profiles, basically the buckets containing the application exported in the previous video. And finally, we're going to create import policies in order to restore our applications in this new cluster. So just like we saw in the previous video, the first step, of course, is to install Kasten. In order to do that, we're going to use the first Ansible playbook. And in this case, of course, we're going to deploy Kasten in a new Kubernetes cluster running in AWS EKS. So we run the first playbook. Then we provide the vault password. And we wait until Kasten is installed. This is going to take just a couple of minutes. As you can see, in this case, Kasten is being installed in AWS EKS, right? It's not going to try using Azure or Google. And now is installing in Kasten. Now we can see Kasten is already installed. We can see all the pods already running. And also the service in order to access Kasten dashboard. So here is the address. We provide the password. This is also set in the variables. And now we can see we have Kasten. We don't have applications, just the default namespace. We don't have policies, and we don't have location profiles. It's a fresh deployment, a fresh instance. So of course, the next step will be running the second playbook in order to create the location profiles, just like in the previous video. We provide the vault password. And now the Ansible playbook is going to create the location profiles. Okay? The location profiles are going to be created according to the data provided in a CSV file. I'm going to show you the CSV file in a minute, as soon as the playbook is complete. Okay, so in the vars files, I have a CSV file. And here you should provide the profile type, for instance, AWS S3, Azure Blob, and so on. The bucket name from the cloud provider, and the profile name you want in Kasten. And finally, when it's required, the region. Okay. the Ansible playbook is going to use this CSV file plus the credentials you have in the poll to create the location profiles. If I go now to Kasten and I just refresh, I can see the location profiles were already created. So the next step will be running the third playbook in order to create the import policies to import the applications we have in one of these location profiles, okay? The applications we export in the previous video. Remember, also in the previous video, after the policies were created, a CSV file was created by the playbook containing the application names plus the data string, the import data string. That CSV file should be available, should be copied here in the create policy folder. We can see here we have the import details CSV file. If I check this file, I can see the application names plus the data string to import the application. Okay, so make sure you copy the file in this folder. So now we can run the Ansible playbook, the last one, the third one, in order to import the applications. This playbook is going to create import policies in the Kubernetes cluster, in the target Kubernetes cluster, with the same frequency you set in the backup policy. The idea is, if you're running the backup policy, the exports daily, once per day, you can also import that backup also daily. Okay, so because every day you have a new restore point, so you can restore that new restore point also daily if you want. Okay, so in this case, for make it easier, I'm using the same frequency. So I run the playbook. In this case, I'm not using a poll, so no password is required. So the policies are being created now. Okay, so if I go to Kasten and I go to policies, now I can see the policies were created. The same policies I created first in the production cluster to export the applications. Now are created here as an import policy to import the application in the target Kubernetes cluster. We can also edit any of these policies to check the details. You can see the name of the policy. Here you can see the application is going to be restored automatically after the import process is complete. Okay. Something very important here is the use of transforms. Okay. Remember, the applications in the first place were exported from a Kubernetes cluster running in Google Cloud Kubernetes engine. Now we're going to import the same applications from the custom backup in a AWS Kubernetes cluster. Okay, of course, the storage classes are not going to be the same. Okay, so we can transform the storage class used by any of the persistent volumes, the persistent volume claims, in order to use the proper one. Okay, this transform also is created by the playbook. Okay, so if I edit here, I can see the transform is going to change the storage class in order to use GP2. This is the default storage class in AWS. Okay. So at this point, the applications are not restored yet, are not imported yet, the import policy is going to run automatically according to the schedule. For instance, the MongoDB import is going to run every hour. The Postgre import policy is going to run every week, and so on. Okay? It depends on the schedule we set previously. You also can see a special policy called cluster import. This policy basically is going to import all the cluster-wide resources we export from the original Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so again, these policies are going to run automatically, but you can also run it manually if you want to. So I can run all this policy immediately if you want. Okay. So all these policies are going to be run right now. And now we wait until the process is complete. So I can go to the dashboard. And after a minute, you can see how the import policies are completed successfully. Okay, so now we have all new applications here also in our target Kubernetes cluster. We can actually check if the pods are all running. And we can see the pods for MongoDB, for MySQL, and for Postgre are all up and running. So now with this, we have completed the process of importing the applications. The whole idea here is we can use export and import options in Kasten not just for application migration, but also can be used for disaster recovery purposes. Okay, so you can keep a secondary cluster importing the applications maybe every day to have a copy of your application just in case something happens in your production cluster. So you can have this all your applications ready to be used in case of any kind of disaster in your production cluster. And remember, all these Ansible playbooks are available in GitHub, so you can try yourself. And if you have any feedback, if you find any issue, just let me know. We can see what improvements we can make together. Okay, thank you very much.